May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Bishop Andrew, as I said before, has declared this Sunday, Trinity Sunday, to be Refugee Sunday in the Diocese of Toronto, a day to focus prayerfully and compassionately on the everyday reality for millions and millions of people around the world. There are political refugees, refugees escaping the horrors of war, economic refugees, that is, people who simply can't afford, they can't feed and clothe and house their families. And more today, environmental refugees on the move because the climate in their homeland is now unproductive. The land is unable to sustain as many people as it once did. There are homes to be found for every single refugee on earth. But between nationalism, racism, fear of the other, war and politics, too many places are unwelcoming to those in desperate need of a new lease on life. As a result, they linger for years in unsanitary and unsafe refugee camps, risk their lives crossing dangerous waters in the slim hope that someone will take them in on the other side. Or they suffer and all too often die at home because no one offered a way out, another place to go. The fact that there are so many refugees in horrible situations is a testament to human sin. And so as Christians in the business of overcoming the power of human sin, Trinity Sunday is a very appropriate time to ask ourselves just what God is calling us to do about this. Shani is the wizard behind the computer today, and I'm wondering, Shani, can you share the image that I asked you to put up on the screen at this time? I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. It's perhaps the most famous icon coming out of the Eastern Church. It's simply called Trinity, painted by a monk named Rublev in the 13th, 14th century. I'm not going to go into all the subtle meaning in this beautiful icon because it's just too much. There's many sermons in this icon. But I do want to point out the main characters. The three sitting around the table, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In short, you could say they are doing business over lunch around the kitchen table. They are planning the salvation of the world. The plan for the Son to become incarnate, to come and rescue us from the power of sin. And as my favorite interpreter of this icon, Henry Nouwen, puts it, to invite us home into their own being, which he calls the house of love, which is also the name he gives to this icon. The Trinity is certainly unfathomable. That is, it's too deep, too mysterious to ever fully grasp. But to put it very succinctly, it is the living, breathing house of love from which the whole universe is born and into which Jesus, the Son, comes to invite us. As followers of Jesus, he then commands us to invite others into this same house. That is our job. So as we think about refugees today, people who have become without a home, surely we are called by Jesus, who has made us part of this house of love, to lovingly, compassionately offer them shelter, food, clothing, and companionship here in our own country, in our own community, where they can find hope and an opportunity to live with dignity and to know the love of their new neighbors. Okay, Shani, you can stop sharing now. Thank you. So, on this Refugee Sunday, I want to show you, it's a 7-minute video produced for today by Aura, the Anglican United Refugee Alliance, who facilitate refugee sponsorships for parishes in our diocese. And most likely the group through whom this parish co-sponsored refugees just a few years ago, just before I came here. I would like to continue a conversation about parish involvement at some level with sponsorship in the not too distant future. But for now, here is the Aura video. If you can play it for us, Ashani.
I was a stranger and you welcomed me. You and I are witnessing the highest level of human displacement in history. According to the UN High Commission on Refugees, by the middle of 2020, there were 26 million refugees worldwide, half of whom were under the age of 18. Here in the Diocese of Toronto, we have been working very closely with Aura to help families and individuals fleeing persecution to find a new home here in this country. We have designated May 30th as Refugee Sunday in the diocese, and I invite you to find new ways of learning more about the issues that face refugees worldwide and how your parish can work with Aura in sponsoring and resettling so that our diocese continues to be a place of welcome, of love, and of compassion. For as Jesus said, "When you did it to the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me."
Anglican United Refugee Alliance. We just say Aura, and we within parish ministries are not always mindful that there's a small dedicated staff team in Alex and Marin that really do the bulk of this work, as well as a board and a series of volunteers that have really devoted their spare time, their energy to creating a structure that allows the church to just pick up and run. And so one of the gifts that we have as a diocese and as our Anglican Church in this area is this refugee partnership program.
Where we see humans in need, it is our duty to respond. As a people of faith, it's our duty to respond. They're waiting for us to respond to their need. And that's really the one thing that I would say to any parish, that there is a family waiting across the ocean for you to sponsor and support them.
I think the big thing was, though it was a huge amount of work, it was a wonderful character defining experience for Holy Trinity.
Yes.
So, and if you ask Holy Trinity to tell a story about herself, the church will, with pride and joy, talk about the ministry with the Duku family.
Yeah.
And I would say when you're coming out of a refugee camp like Kakuma, and I'm going to speak very broadly intentionally, it would not be surprising to find some issues around physical or mental health coming out of that trauma. And Holy Trinity's ministry in some ways could perhaps have been life-saving.
But it was an amazing experience that I want to gladly repeat. And our primate, Linda Nichols, wrote an article about sponsorship transforming people. And she talked about learning and growth, personal learning and growth, and transforming our own hearts. And I think that summarizes what's happened to me.
I'll see if my memory is serving me right. I think it's Teresa Avila, whose essential quote is saying, you know, we are the arms of Christ, right? The love of Christ is going to come through our mouth. Our arms are going to be the ones that do the deeds. And instead of throwing money at an issue, and we did throw money at an issue. However, way more than that, we threw hearts and boots and hands and actually did the work.
So I would say to anybody trying to start at square one, you're not too small. The church is not too small. You have a wider community to draw on, and there is a lot of value in that. Don't be intimidated. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. As I said, it's like missional work on steroids. You're happy one minute and you're crying the next. You're frustrated one minute, and then everything falls into place. It's it's a roller coaster, but it's an amazing result.
This effort of sponsoring refugees caused our better selves to kick in. And Christchurch Deer Park raised an enormous amount of money. In fact, we were able to sponsor a second family because we had raised more than we needed for the first family. It was simply a wonderful, wonderful experience for the community. And what I have found is that people do not want to stop. Bringing in one family, supporting one family was not enough. They're saying, you know, are I have read in the paper, I know that there are now 80 million displaced people in the world. How do we do this? How do we continue?
Are we blessed? Have we gotten to a point where we're being nudged or where someone has knocked on our door and there's an opportunity for us to more deeply live our faith? And so it's that sense of the resources are in place, the spirit is willing, the need is there. Um, Communities just need to really, um, prepare and make the mental adjustment of moving into a new family way as a faith community. Are we going to embrace this? Can we be relational? And if we're at a point where we're seeing a need and thinking we're going to solve a problem with the money we can raise or to just bring people here, I would just encourage a little nuance to the plan to really make sure that the interested parties are open to committing to a relationship and also building some flexibility into their plans that they can be adaptive, responsive, and that way just allow God's blessing to work through these new families as they bring their gifts to our communities.